Hi, welcome to the School Run. I'm Jane.
And I'm Liv.
And we are going to share with you the best conversations we have on our school run.
We will invite guests and debate topics that affect and resonate with every generation.
We all remember our own school run, so maybe have a think about yours.
What do you remember?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the School Run podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. What a privilege our journey is. Having started the School Run podcast in February 2023, we have had an absolutely amazing array of guests join us and share their school run memories, what their journey from school to what they're doing now has been like. As we know, and we always say, every day is a school day, and we don't have to have it all figured out at school. This podcast, for those that haven't listened before, was started with myself and my then 15-year-old daughter, Liv. We had a very long journey to school, an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back, and it contained lots of great conversations. So we popped those onto a School Run podcast platform, and the rest is history. We thought we'd get a couple of listeners. We're 10,000 listeners in. We are well supported, and we're so privileged to now welcome guests to come along and share their wisdom, insights, their career journeys with young people and old alike to hopefully inspire them that, you can always make a change, you can pivot, and it doesn't have to be figured out when you're 16. Liv, I've just introduced you to this amazing guest a couple of minutes ago. We had a few technical issues. However, we're here. How are you feeling about this particular episode when I've given you a one-sentence intro so far?
Well, when you told me, oh, Lisa's a stylist, and then she popped on the screen, I was like, Lisa's definitely a stylist. I could tell by how she looked. I was like, Lisa's definitely a stylist. I can see.
That's amazing. Her personal brand says it all, doesn't it? And that first impression is so huge for anyone, a young person going to an interview or an audition or doing a speech. It's how people make an instant judgment about you.
Yeah. And sometimes I guess we don't like that people make instant judgments and we say don't judge, but inevitably that's what we do based on what you're wearing or your posture or whatever. People do just naturally make a judgment about you.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a great conversation, I'm sure. We are joined by Lisa Newport. As Liv has just alluded to, Lisa is a personal stylist. However, I would say, and I've taken this directly from her LinkedIn, Visability Va Va Voom. So I think this episode we are in for a real journey. Personal brand and style stylist. She is going to give us a huge insight, I think, into that absolute first impressions. Shall we start there? Lisa, thank you for joining us on the School Run podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Jane and Liv. It's lovely to see you both. And I'm looking forward to talking to you. I always like a chat.
Oh, that's good. I actually just spotted you on LinkedIn and headhunted you for our podcast, if I'm honest. And that came because I saw somebody comment on a post or mention you. And all of a sudden I looked deeper and I saw this brand of Lisa Newport. I saw flamingos and pink and the most gorgeous branding. And then we had a conversation and now we've seen each other face to face in this moment. Talk to me about what it is that you do for people around.
So, well, like you were just saying earlier about a pivot. So I have kind of changed a little bit what I do in the last few years. But what essentially I do, I work primarily with women in business. Women in business, most of my clients tend to have come to, they're in like a second career, if you like. They might have been in corporate and done something, been miserable. Something's happened and they've changed. So they're wanting to do something now that is a bit more sort of aligned with them having a great time and really enjoying what they do. So within all that, what I help people do is look at their values and their vision and what they want to say about themselves and their brand and how they so we're sort of creating the visual aesthetic with you as a person and you as a brand, because if you are your brand, it's sort of everything. So we look at colors, we look at the kind of styles that you might be using in terms of visuals, graphics. We look at how you look yourself, what you're presenting, how you know, what messages are you conveying with how you look? Because as Liv said, you know, you do make judgments, and everybody says, oh, it's 7 seconds to make a first impression. And I did some research on this. And the latest research that I could find was from 2006. So that's like ages ago anyway, isn't it? But even then in 2006, and it was, I can't remember exactly which magazine it was, but I'll give you the details because it was a scientific magazine. 1/10 of a second. So so if you think about, you know, we're all so busy these days, aren't we? And we're scrolling our phones, and like you say, my branding stopped you, you know, on the scroll kind of thing. And that's kind of what we need to be doing. We need to be capturing people's attention in the way that we, hopefully, you don't know what people are thinking, but you can sort of try and control it as much as you can and create the right first impression. And that's essentially what I help people do with them, for themselves and the business. So I don't like to call myself a stylist because I'm not your typical stylist. People who I work with would never in a million years be Googling, oh, I want to work with a stylist, or looking for image consultant. They're ordinary people, if that makes sense. So I'm not sort of, you know, if anybody is listening to this goes and looks me up, I'm as far from a Kardashian as you can imagine. You know, I'm not that kind of person at all. So my mission has always been to help like ordinary women feel the absolute best that they can, to feel confident, because when you feel confident, you walk in a room, you hold yourself differently, and if you're oozing confidence, people believe that you're confident, and it gives you authority, credibility, all that kind of stuff. So that's my passion.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that 1/10 of a second is huge. And if that's what you've got to make an impression with your personal brand, that's how you look, how you talk, how you hold yourself, how you visually with business cards or websites or whatever put yourself out there as, that's huge. And I reckon that probably that's going to get smaller and smaller as we get more into the world of AI.
Yeah, who knows?
And like you say, you've got like this real niche of women who perhaps are at that pivotal point, maybe have had their families, they're now looking at something for themselves, they're coming out of a big career into working for themselves in business, and therefore they're individually and their business is one in the same. They're not walking into a brand of McDonald's, are they, where it's already done for them?
That's it. So, and I think, you know, there's a lot of women, you know, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I like pink, so I'll use pink in my branding, without understanding the psychology of the colour, or whether the colours. So I know you two have both had your colours done, in inverted commas, colours done. That was my, you know, absolutely. I've been obsessed with colour analysis for donkey's years, you know, sort of 40 years. And I've trained in all the different systems, because that was when my business, when I first started in this business as myself 10 years ago, that was, you know, one of the primary things I was doing. But it's kind of, you know, ideally, if you're thinking about having your brand photographs, if you're having photographs of yourself, because you want to be putting your face out there, because people buy people and people resonate with you as a person, you want to be looking good, feeling good as yourself, but also as well, you want to be in harmony with your branding, if you like. So it's kind of, and what I see all the time, I've got floating heads. I've got this thing about floating heads. When people wear colours that are too dark or too bright or too light, that are not in harmony with their natural colouring, you see the colour first and you don't see them. They disappear. So you end up being this floating head. Bright pink, you know, I love pink, as you can tell from my branding, but bright pink and black are the two main culprits. I'm doing my own private survey at the moment, and just monitoring when I see people, and there's obviously women love bright pink, but then they wear it and it wears them. So I talk to women, I have a bridge between the colour in your face, so that, you know, you can wear bright pink but have something else here, so that it's sort of I'm saying here as if people can see me, on your décolletage across your, you know, your shoulders, your neckline, so that there's a bridge between you, so it sort of harmonizes with your skin and your hair and your eyes.
Absolutely. And that might be scarves, it might be jewelry, it could be all sorts of things. But then understanding your almost style personality, because we might suit certain colours, like you've got beautiful colouring in terms of your gorgeous silvery hair and you know, bright eyes, and you're obviously very creative. But everybody's style personality and what they feel comfortable in is very different. So I can think of someone who, you know, my family members of mine that are very natural, they're very comfort in the outdoors, and they like comfort and linen and cotton, and therefore they wouldn't want a big silver chunky in your face necklace. So it's about understanding that style personality too, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And style personality is one of the key things that I work in with your branding. So if you are, you know, I work with 6 main style archetypes. And usually most people have got one dominant one, maybe with a secondary one, sometimes with a little bit of a third one. So what we do is we do a quiz. I've got a free quiz on my website, do a free quiz, and then we talk through that. So that helps me figure out why you like what you like about things. And then that helps you put like your own style recipe together, your own ingredients, so that you can then pick and mix from what you like, and not understanding why you like it and why it works for you. And absolutely, style personality is definitely key. You know, I'm looking at you now, Jane, and you're wearing a hoodie. I haven't got a hoodie. I would never feel comfortable in a hoodie. It's just not my thing. So my style personality is primarily dramatic. And a dramatic style personality, it's always you've always got a bit of makeup on your hair. You couldn't go out and just wash and wear your hair. That doesn't happen. You've got to style it in some way, you know, whereas a natural style personality that you're talking about, you know, you can wash your hair, leave it, looks great, hardly any makeup, if any, you know, if any at all, maybe something wooden, like a wooden choker, or, you know, so it's about adapting.
It is. It sure is.
That's definitely me, isn't it? I go out, I've just washed my hair, it's still wet, I can go out, I can have absolutely no makeup on, in a hoodie and joggers, and I'm like, I feel absolutely brilliant and comfortable.
That's excellent. So the thing is with that, then, if that's you and that's you know, there's no point somebody saying to you, or you're having professional photographs done for your business, or you need to wear this, you need to wear that, and then people meeting you in real life and you don't look anything like your photographs. You know, so that's nonsense. It's about you being the best you feel. You know, it is entirely about how you feel. And if you feel good in joggers and your hoodie, then, and that's part of your brand, then that's fine. And it's about how you dial that up and down for situations and environments that you need to be in. Sometimes you might need to be a bit smarter, but how can we make you dress in a way that where you feel smart, so that you feel comfortable and confident in the environment, without really shoving you out of your comfort zone and dressing you in something that, you know, putting you in a shift dress and heels like somebody on The Apprentice would wear, because that would really, you'd be uncomfortable. And then because you're uncomfortable, you're not going to be at your best. So I have this made up word called confidence, which is like comfortable and confident in the same, you know, and it came by accident chatting to somebody once, one of my clients years ago. And I use that all the time, because it is about, you know, you can feel comfy in your jeans and your t-shirt, but then if you're in a smart environment, those jeans and t-shirt might make you feel really uncomfortable. How can you translate what you wear so it's smarter, but, you know, sort of dialing it up and down a little bit?
It fascinates me that not everybody knows about colour, style themselves, like that you stumble across things. We all have something in our wardrobe. We go, I feel really good in that. I always get loads of compliments in that. It works for me. But then they don't dig deeper, or perhaps they've never had it brought into their awareness that there's actually a science behind it. There's a real strategy behind it. And actually, it's not just by accident that we can look and feel good every single day. But there is some investment in it as well.
There is. And I think, you know, we're not taught how to get dressed, are we? You know, it's not, we don't have lessons in style and colour at school. You know, you've sort of, most of us are, you know, influenced, you know, the first influences in our lives are usually the people who bring us up, our parents, grandparents, whoever's your carers, aren't they? And their attitude to clothes and style does influence ours as we go on. And one of the things when I'm doing a real deep dive, when I'm working one-to-one with people, which I absolutely love doing, is this whole, you know, we talk about your history around clothes and who dressed you when you were little, and you know, what were their values around getting dressed, and you know, because that really does shape. So you either go the same way or you go the complete opposite, you know. It's kind of, but it really does influence you as you get older. And it's a kind of that sense of, yeah, you put something on, it makes you feel great, and then it's about being able to replicate that on purpose, understanding what it is about it that makes you feel good. Then you can do it on purpose on a daily basis, because if you can do that on a daily basis, then you're starting your day, you know, right from you getting your underwear. You know, don't be wearing saggy, horrible undies that don't, it doesn't matter that nobody sees them, because you're starting. It's what messages are you telling yourself? If you're putting nice underwear on, you value yourself, and then that sets you up with, you know, whatever goes on top. And it's messages to you, you know, you're giving the message to yourself as well as anybody else who's sort of seeing you.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I was young, well, a bit young, I'm 17 now, I'm 17. This is the first episode I've recorded whilst I've been 17.
Oh.
So, but when I was a little bit younger, about 13, 14, I was very much like, I would go out very much with my hair where I still don't wear much makeup, and I used to go out in joggers, and I'd probably worn them for about 4 days, and they would, you know. But it gets to a point, because I was very much of like, I'm not bothered what anyone else thinks of me. I want to be comfortable, and then people who would dress up, or I would think, why are you doing that? Like, I feel so much more comfortable in my joggers, and I used to be thinking, why would I want to dress up for, like, I'm not going to dress up for other people to say that I look good. But I feel like now I'm very much, it's not about me dressing up for other people to be like, oh, she looks good. It's actually for myself to be able to put an outfit on, or put nice clothes on that have just been washed, and I feel more confident, and that portrays me differently. And something that I've changed very recently is I always used to wear really long false nails, like wacky colours, really, really long. And I was talking to my grandma, and she has the most beautiful, she really takes care of her nails. Like, for me, I look at my grandma and I think, you really take care of yourself, and I look at you and I think, like, wow, I want to be like my grandma.
Yeah.
And I always used to wear really long false nails, and I always used to go around to her house, and she always used to say they were tacky, and why are you wearing those? And then when I went to live with her for a few weeks, I decided that I wasn't going to wear them anymore, because I liked them because I thought they looked cool. But then I thought also to other people, like, they might seem tacky, like to my grandma, and I thought, oh, I don't want to like be coming across tacky with these really long nails. So I took them off, and now all I've been doing is taking care of my nails, and I actually love it. I lie in bed at night instead of going on my phone, and I take care, and I take some time to file my nails and to put some like strengthening nail polish on, and it makes me feel a lot better. Maybe that's because I am more of a natural, like, style type.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. And the fact that you've recognized that, you know, you want to be like your grandma, you know, so it's identifying what it is about your grandma that is, you know. But yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, so if we were talking and you were my client and you told me this story about you having these nails and you thought they were, you know, but then your actual comfort zone is the hoodie and the trackies and whatever, I would be exploring what it was about those nails that so, you know, because obviously there was a desire there to have something that was a bit wacky, a bit different, so it's kind of like, if you don't want the nails anymore, how can we still represent that side of your style personality and that side of your character? What might it be that could replace the nails and still give you that sense of, you know, difference, if you like, and that sort of showing your uniqueness, showing your personality, but in a different way. It might not be the nails, it might be something else. So it could well be that you have I don't know, logos on your hoodies and your t-shirts, that were bright colours, or something that was just a bit different, and it might be like, well, you can get them made yourself, you can do your own logos, Liv, let's see what we can, you know, and think about that kind of thing, and think about slogans and things that would then be representative of your style, personality, or, you know, get you some Converse boots that you could paint yourself, or, you know, just something that would still be aligned to that creativity. That side was obviously there at some point for some reason, so we'd work out why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's really, because I guess I do kind of like to be different, but then I go to college and I see everyone, 50% of the college must be in black, like must be, maybe even more than that. And I look and I think, when I went in some really brightly coloured pattern pants, and I actually felt really not uncomfortable, but I felt very, very different.
Stood out.
Yeah, because everyone was in dark colours, black, grey, just very comfortable, and I felt like so different when I was there, and I thought, are people looking at me because I'm wearing bright colours?
Yeah, and this is where this confidence comes in. So even though you might really like your, I'm assuming your northern pants, you're talking about trousers, not your knickers, because where I live now, if you said pants, people think you're talking about knickers, but I'm originally from up north, so I get it. But yeah, so this is where the confidence comes in. So obviously that's something that you really like and you're drawn to and you're attracted to. But in that situation, it made you feel a little bit uncomfortable because you were standing out from a crowd. So that was pushing you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And then there's also this, you know, if we think about it, especially when you're younger, there's a real desire to fit in and conform and be part of something. And we all want to belong. It's an innate, you know, human trait. We all want to feel part of something and belong. And there's a whole, you know, that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down about feeling part of a community and belonging in something. But this is why you see groups of people dressed in a similar way. So like goths, it's like they dress in a certain way, and you can identify people by how they dress. And birds of a feather do tend to flock together. So you'll find that people who are not as comfortable and confident in themselves will dress in a way so that they fit in. And that's just human nature. And I think there's you know, certainly, I don't know about your mum, but certainly for me, when I've gone through that phase, even as an adult, you know, I went to art college where we would just all, you know, it was wild and wild. Art college in the 1980s, you can imagine, you know, the 80s was a very expressive time for people to dress anyway. And I taught in art colleges for a long time. And then when I met my ex-husband, he was a lot more conservative than me. And over the years, I ended up being more and more conservative now. And I kind of lost my identity, really, lost my taste in things. You know, we ended up in this. I've got this story about glitter finials. Finials are the things, you know, that go on the end of curtain poles. You've got the stopper thing. So that the proper name for them is finials. We moved into a new house. It was a new build, so absolutely just a blank magnolia box. We needed curtain poles, we needed everything, and we're going shopping. Now, just from what you've seen of me already, I want you to make a decision here, right? If you've got some really plain finials that are sort of see-through, like I'm going to show you now. I know we're on thingy, but something like that, that is the thing, right? And you've got some that are like that, but with glitter in. Which would be the ones you think I'd choose?
The
Glitter.
Yeah, so that's, you've known me for like 5 minutes. Yes, the glitter. And I said, oh, you know, let's get these in a magnolia house. You know, it's like, and my husband at the time was like, ooh, they're a bit much. and at some point I must have gone, oh, okay then, because that boring one that I'm just showing you now, that's just plain, is the ones that we ended up with. So I kind of lost, there's a whole story about this and I've written about it in my book. I've touched on it a little bit, but this is why I'm really passionate about what I do now. So I kind of lost my identity and ended up, I put a lot of weight on as well when I was pregnant with my son, and then I had some trauma and I'd ended up gaining a lot of weight. I've still never lost it. So I was conscious of my weight, conscious of my size. So I ended up just wearing big, black baggy things, and just, just all a bit. And then I got to a turning point when it's about 11 years ago now, and I had some real horrible things happen to me. One was a work thing, and then my husband was having an affair, and he left as well. So I was like really rock bottom, and I was coming up to my 50th. It was like nearly my 50th birthday, and I just thought, do you know what? Sod what anybody else thinks. And it was like a real liberating. I was like, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. And this is when I started my business. Somebody said to me, what would you do if you could do anything, make hearts sing? And I said, you know what? And I went back to all these years ago when I was fascinated by colour analysis and done all these other things. I said, I want to do that. I want to help people who've been through that journey like I have, and who've lost themselves, been mum or, carer or whatever, and got to a point where it's time for them. And that's how my business started. And then over the years it's evolved, where I work more with individuals who are starting new businesses and being themselves. So that's kind of why it's so important to me. That's why I'm so passionate about this whole being who you are and representing who you are, because I've been there.
And I think that even that story to people listening, that we sort of conform or we lessen who we are a little bit to fit in or to please or whatever. And actually, when we feel totally comfortable in our own skin, that's when actually we're at our best.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it takes years to find that for some people. It really can. It really can. And I think, you've got to find that place of confidence to just be who you truly are. And I bet now that you've got glittery ends on your curtain poles.
I'll tell you what, we've not just got glittery ends. I've got a new husband, and we were decorating 3 years ago, and he said, we're having new curtain poles. I said, we don't need new curtain poles, we'll just get new ends. He said, no, we're having new ones. And he bought glitter poles.
Oh!
I came home one day from a meeting. I'd gone out to a meeting years ago now. We haven't been together that long, and I came home and he decorated. I'd said something about wanting this pink glitter wallpaper. I came home and it was up and it was on the wall.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Oh, yeah.
We're all about on this podcast helping young people and older alike, because we've got a whole range, a big plethora of listeners. Majority female, I would say nearly 80% female, based in the UK, of all ages between 15 and sort of 69. And it's about us helping them to find being the best version of themselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, how they look and feel, like just dealing with us as human beings. And I think that you're bringing all of almost our topics together, which is a really beautiful thing. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think it's not just about colour, it's not just about style. Like you said, it's about your values as a person, and how I was actually doing that when we were choosing, I think it was a colour for a hoodie, or when we were deciding our logo for the school. And obviously now it's black and white to be kind of like a zebra crossing like a school. But I actually searched up and I was like, because I'm very much into, I can't just pick something. I need to know a meaning, like what does it actually mean? Very like sentimental things. I only really wear jewelry if someone I love has bought it and it's meaningful. So I was actually looking at all the colours and what they mean, and what does like yellow symbolize, what, because your brand colours are red. And I was used to come up to mum and I said, when I did English literature and you have to analyse every single word, I came up to like, why is your brand colours red? Red symbolises blood and aggression. And then you were like, but red symbolises love
and passion as well, so it can be so many different things. And there's so many. Yeah, red is my little voices company through and through. I mean, funnily enough, I've just posted on my Instagram this morning, I've been on a dog walk, which is why I'm in the natural hoodie. But being on a dog walk, and I've only been looking after my sister's dog for about 9 days. She's on honeymoon, and I've already got the dog in a red harness rather than the purple one. It was by accident really, but it was just funny really. Everyone knows me as red with little voices, but in terms of the School Run podcast and the black and white, we can actually put any colour with it and any background with it, and actually that gives the versatility for both of us as co-hosts, doesn't it, in terms of what we feel and love. at the time and on the day, Lisa.
Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We're just cutting in to say, if you're enjoying our podcast, please click the follow button on whichever platform you're listening on. And please leave us a review. We'd be so grateful for your support and feedback. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you are loving our school run chats and debates, please consider buying us a virtual coffee. The link will be in the description of every podcast episode, and it will also be in the bio of our Instagram, which is @theschoolrun_official. And why not give it a follow while you're there, so you can see all the updates and get sneak peeks at upcoming episodes. Thank you so much and happy listening.
What I would say is, in terms of black and white together, when you wear, if you're wearing black and white together, it very much conveys authority. So if you think about judges and lawyers, the barristers, all that kind of thing, and police uniforms, prison officer uniforms, they're all black, and it's about conveying authority. So it's something that, so if I was advising somebody and you wanting to create rapport with somebody, you wanting to become across as warm and approachable, it's like, don't wear a white shirt and a black jacket, because that's completely, it's sending out messages that it's sort of, so there's all kinds of stuff like that, which is interesting that you've looked into it, Liv. And obviously as well, in different cultures, different colours mean different things. In the Western world, colours mean different. Red will mean something different in the Eastern world. There's a lot for marriage, use the dress, they get married in red, don't they, in some cultures. So it's all, you can control it to a certain extent in terms of how you're perceived and so on, but it's not, the law, as in.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I can see how it can be a real problem for people that have had to work in industries like law or accountancy or, the courts in some way, where they've then, if they do set up a business or they become mum and don't go back to work or whatever happens, all of a sudden, well, that's what I've worn for 90% of my time. Who am I? There's got to be a whole readdress of that, hasn't there?
Absolutely. And I've worked with quite a few people who've done that. My sister, she was in the police force for 30 odd years, and had always, it's all uniform, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know what, who am I when I'm not in uniform, when I'm living and even working. So her default before lockdown was like, oh, well, I've got a little part-time job now that she went into, because she didn't want to give up work completely, because again, she lost herself, she got no, she was only 50, and it's like, now what do I do? And so I did some work with her, but it was like her default go-to for work, she ended up doing some training and stuff like that, was to wear a business suit, a skirt and a jacket, or a skirt and trousers. And then come lockdown, it's like everything went much more casual, and people weren't dressing like that. And then it's like, oh no, what do I wear? What even is smart casual? Because that's like a big thing in itself. And what is smart casual? Does anybody ever know, what smart casual is? So this is why it's really important to work out what it is for you. What is smart casual, in Liv world and in Jane world? What does smart casual mean for you? And then you can, you've got your own sort of baseline.
Absolutely, your own default, rather than what anyone else is saying, or that fashion is sort of demanding of you.
It's like when you have an interview, isn't it? And they say, not that I've ever had an interview, but they say dress smart casual, don't they? But that could, like you said, it's very subjective. Like to you, that might mean, I don't know, jeans. Someone else, that might mean a dress. Like it's so different.
It's so different.
I think with that, as a general rule of thumb, is if you were going for an interview, it's kind of finding out, if you can, find out what the people who already work there dress like, but then dress a little bit smarter than that. Interview, that's a sort of a baseline. And the same if you're ever speaking or you're presenting anything or you're doing anything on a stage, it's kind of, what will your audience be wearing? And then you'd be sort of like a little bit a level up, unless you've got a really strong brand uniform, or uniform like with a U,
yes,
YOU, unless you've got a really strong brand uniform, then that's a sort of a gauge as well. That's
a really good tip, isn't it? It's a really good tip. I've not heard that one before, and I think a lot of people will take that and think, oh, that's great. Often we do it, don't we? If you go into a wedding and you'll say to a few friends, oh, what are you wearing? Are you wearing a hat? Are you sort of gauging what's the look going to be in the room or a party?
Yeah, and it's that feeling comfortable in a crowd again, isn't it? So that you don't stand out too much, you know, or if you're not 100% confident in your look and you really don't care what anybody else thinks, you want to feel that level of confidence.
You sure do. You sure do. So tell me, Lisa, how you mentioned that you were in the arty world and you taught art for many years. What has your career looked like from, give us a whistle-stop tour.
A whistle-stop
to
tour.
today.
Right. So from 14, I wanted to be a makeup artist. I was absolutely obsessed with makeup right from an early age. I remember giving myself a pretend black eye with my mum's makeup once to go to brownies. So this is how long. So got to 14, right? That's what I'm going to do. So TV and theatre, special effects makeup is what I wanted to do. I went to college after school to do A levels. I was all doing, it was all art and everything. And I managed to wangle myself onto this course that was supposedly just for hairdressers doing cosmetic makeup in evening class. So I'm doing my A levels, all art subjects in the day, and then evening class to do this. And then I realised as I was doing that, so I've got a dodgy hip that I've had since birth. I can't stand up for very long. I'm not going to be able to do. There was no things like in those days, like reasonable adjustments or anything. It was like they didn't exist. And it's like, oh, I'm going to struggle doing this thing. And I know one of the questions that you sent me prior to the podcast was like, have you got a teacher who inspired you, And meanwhile, I'm doing this thing, loving doing just cosmetic makeup. It wasn't special effects. It was learning how to do wedding makeup and stuff like that for people who were hairdressers, really. But alongside that, this new teacher came into the college her name was Bev. I can't remember her surname, but her name was Bev. And she seemed so glamorous and she'd got big rings on and, she was all like floaty dresses. She was teaching textiles and I got introduced to printed textiles, and then I really fell in love with designing for printed textiles. So that's when I went to university. I came to the Midlands, Loughborough. It was called college then, it's part of the university now, but did my degree in textiles, worked as a designer for a design studio, freelance designing, then got into teaching in colleges myself. So that was working with 16 to 19-year-olds, which I absolutely love. So that transition from school to university, that was my job to sort of that bit. Loved it. Did that for a few years. Ended up having my son. Well, first of all, I had a car accident. I got hit by a lorry on the M1. I was commuting a long way and I thought, oh, somebody's trying to tell me something here. I shouldn't be doing this commute. Same thing. I went back to work. Same thing happened again 6 months later with same spot on the motorway, but it was a 6 car. I thought, I really need to not do this anymore. Quickly after that, got married, had my son, thought, I'm not going back doing that journey. I've got this baby. What can I do? Met somebody who was doing party plan makeup. So I don't know if you remember Virgin V makeup.
I do, yeah. We talked about that actually when we chatted, because the founder of Temple Spa has been on our podcast in January this year. And she and her husband were quite instrumental in Virgin V and the setup of that brand.
Yeah. So I started working for Virgin V. I'd got a new baby, walked out my job without any planning it. I was supposed to go back and I just didn't. It's like, oh, now what do I do? So I had to make it work. But it was going back to my first love of makeup. So I found it really, really easy. And I recruited loads of people, I had a big team, won all sorts of awards, met Richard Branson a few times. Did that for about 7 or 8 years, and then the company was changing and it wasn't aligned. So it's back to this alignment, and it was like, I'm not doing it just for the money. I've got to really enjoy it. Meanwhile, I thought, I've got all these qualifications in teaching. I used to love teaching. I'll go back and do that. I ended up working at the prison round the corner because they were advertising for an art teacher. Male remand prison, category B remand prison, where everybody goes, there's murderers, you name it, they're all in there. I mean, I'm teaching art. And then I was there 6 months, I got promoted to middle management, then got the manager's role, and then died inside. So the only creativity in that role was sort of, putting colours on spreadsheets. And if I doodled in a meeting and I was so like rock bottom, I really did hit rock bottom. And then I say I had this quite traumatic experience through work, coincided with my husband having an affair. Everything was like, now what do I do? And I thought, oh no, this is how my business started.
It's just a fascinating story, and we're so right, aren't we? The decades of our lives change. Just because you're making a decision at 16 or 17, it's not for life. It doesn't have to be. You end up on the right path, and I suppose you would say, I mean, looking at you, observing from the outside in, I don't know you very well, Lisa, but I would see, a really content with where you are person, with your career and life and how you feel inside.
Absolutely. And this is why so the driver for me with what I do now, and like I say, I've sort of pivoted recently. I set up a business club, women's business club, a couple of years ago, which is really part of that community and belonging and where you can be yourself. It doesn't, because I think there's a lot in networking in the world of business. There's a tendency to, oh, everything's fine, yeah, how are you doing? Oh yeah, great. And you pretend everything's good in business, and some days you're having a really rubbish time and you just need somebody to say, I'm having a rubbish time, but then not be judged as being rubbish at what you do.
Yes. Yeah.
So I created that space, so that's all really important for me. And the extension of that then is this helping women with their branding so that they can be that comfortable in their own skin. So it's all linked to that. So all the reasons why I'm really passionate about what I do and how my business works is because of my lived experience and what I've gone through. And I'm like, well, if I've felt like that, other people do. And it's all been about, right, okay, well, I like that bit, but I don't like that bit. I'm not going to do it anymore. Why would I do it if I don't like it? And so it's thick. And I've got a new thing launching that I'm going to be launching in the September, October time, which is moving. So up until now, my business has been a lot around colour and clothes and that being the thing. But actually, when I'm working with people, it's not, that's so surface. It's kind of all this other stuff. So I've been working on all the other stuff, and it's kind of like, okay, it's time for my brand to be more holistic and embrace all this other stuff that I do, and it not just be colour and clothes. Colour and clothes are a part of it, but not the whole thing. So that's kind of where I'm heading next.
And I'm assuming that with your design background, when you have the textiles, that's why you can design your brand, the flamingos and the flocking together and the color and everything from using Canva, stuff that some businesswomen just can't do because they don't have that creative innate ability, but they're great at writing contracts.
That's it. So and this is essentially, so I've taught myself how to use the digital stuff, and that using, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years, learning how to use Canva and being and that's helped me create, express my creativity in a way without having to get paints and everything out that I used to. So all my skills around colour, composite, because when I worked as a designer, there was no computers then. You had to literally sit and mix, like to Pantone reference accuracy by eye in a studio up in the Lace Market in Nottingham, and I'd be there with gouache, a pinprick at a time to match these colours up. So I've got, so that was sort of always part and parcel of my colour experience as well. So, with my big packages that I do actually do people's branding for them. I will do their designing for them as well. So it's like bringing everything together that I've done over the years to like create this business that is just.
And I would say it's quite unique how you've pulled it all together. I mean, I've met a lot of image consultants, a lot of stylists. I trained with Colour Me Beautiful years ago. They're one of our main sponsors on the podcast.
Yeah.
I understand it. I get it. But actually encompassing the whole world of a woman in business, even some coaching in there as well, which I can hear coming through you as you're chatting with clients. It's just a natural, and the natural teacher in you, the design, like you say, it's definitely visibility, va va voom. I mean, 100%.
I think because like when you think women in business, it's a topic that is being more highlighted now. there's more women in business, I think, probably than there ever has been before. There are a lot of strong business women, and I guess for men, I always say when I go out, well, I say to my stepdad, I say, well, you only have to pick a shirt and some pants. Like I could pick jeans, I could pick a skirt, I could pick a dress. There's just so much stuff to choose from. So I guess, like, coming from a business point of view, I guess for men, it's obviously there's lots of different styles, lots of different patterns, but then again, it's still very much the same thing. Whereas for women, there could be lots of options. Like you say, smart casual, like what is that as a woman? For a man, you could a suit, or it's a lot smaller range of options.
I think you're right. I mean, it's different, isn't it? I know that when you do style personalities with men, I remember my husband having his done. We took him for his style and colour done, Lisa, with a fabulous lady called Sarah Harris, who was on our podcast last year, I think, sometime. And there was discussion around the type of cars that he likes, what he's attracted to, the sort of the fabrics and his build, and is he a very dramatic belt type person or shoe type person, or is he more, so there is stuff around that. But I think with women, from a handbag point of view, a jewelry point of view, glasses, the whole thing, I mean, it's just
the devil's in the details. So it's like, even if you just think about pens, the type of pens that you use, there's a difference between having, a big pen, one that somebody you've picked up somewhere as a freebie at a conference or something, or having a fountain pen. The type of pen that you use says something about you as a person. So when you think of it like that, your glasses, one of the exercises that I always do whenever I do workshops or anything, and even in my book, I've got this same exercise. And I used to have 6 pairs of glasses. And I would say, as the icebreaker at the beginning of the workshop, it's kind of, you sit, with your partner. Tell us a little bit about the person who wears these glasses, and all you can see is the glasses. And time, I've done it hundreds of times, and every single time you do it, it's always very similar. People have similar perception about the person and all they're looking at is a pair of glasses, not even the person's face, just a pair of glasses. So all these things have little, the details will give something away about you as a person, and it's about fine-tuning that and honing that, so you're aware of what that is saying, what that, the fact that your glasses have got gold on the side and fancy trim, what is that saying about you, and how do you sort of then reflect that in your business? Is it the right thing?
Is it what you want to be seen at? Yeah, absolutely. And
I had when I said I was working in the prison, and as the prison manager, glasses are a big part of my brand. I can't see a thing without them. But apart from anything, when I first started wearing varifocus, I got some, and they were leopard print, and I loved them. That cat's eye, so quite dramatic. And then I'd got a pair of, just normal purple boring ones, but I couldn't wear the dramatic ones for work. So when I do this exercise with the glasses, people see the leopardy cat's eye ones, and the words that come out for those glasses are things like, or confident, or sexy, or bold, all these words that, as the prison education manager, you wouldn't want necessarily
associated with you.
Yeah, because I wanted to be seen as serious and professional, and so it was like they were like my glasses for the weekend. And so it's
the devil's in the detail, and the devil is absolutely in the detail. I hear you. And I listened to Stephen Bartlett. I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I went to see him with a really good friend of mine. We had meet and greet VIP. It was incredible. And we heard his talk. And he said, people say, don't sweat the small stuff. He said, but absolutely, as a business owner, I sweat the small stuff. And that's a similar thing. Like, the devil's in the detail. Let's really look at it holistically. And I'm feeling a bit self-conscious now, thinking this is the first time Lisa's met me, and she's meeting me like this, because this wouldn't normally be how I look, with my school run hoodie on that I've been out walking in, and my walking pants. And
very not. If you see Mum on the street, she's got a red handbag, a red coat, a red top, and Mum wears a brand out anywhere.
Which is the real Jane.
The real
friends,
Jane is definitely the red. But
all my friends, every time they see her Mum, she's like, how much would you bet that Jane's wearing red? And this is like my friends, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's normal for me. I wouldn't leave the house without makeup unless I've been walking, which I've done. But I suppose I feel very comfortable in our podcast space because it's audio, it's not video, and I would turn up very differently had this been video. But that says something about me, I suppose, in terms of I am comfortable just being at home me, and the podcast for us is that. It's our journey together, isn't it? Of just chatting, being real, being authentic, being honest. And I don't need all my makeup on and everything for that.
And that's the thing. So it's like, if you're comfortable, you know, as I've got old, I wouldn't have even put the bin out without my face on.
Really?
I was, and like today I've shown up and I'm like, I've got some makeup on, but I've not got a lot on. I've got a bit of mascara and whatever.
You look wonderful. You look wonderful.
Very much. But this to me is like, really, you know, I haven't got any eyeshadow on, any eyeliner or anything. I'm sort of toned down, and that's something as I've got more comfortable with, as I've got more comfortable in my own skin, you know, and just being that, you know, some people, I wouldn't, if I was meeting people for business for the first time, going out somewhere, I would have the next level up. I wouldn't go out. But that, you know, but it's a sign of the times as well. I think with Zoom meetings and, you know, seeing online, there is that people are more casual now and more comfortable being seen in their natural state more. But it's about understanding your, you know, if you're comfortable in that you don't feel that this, you know, wearing the red coat and having the handbag is a mask, is a, you know, if that's still comfortably you, then that's fine. It's understanding that it's not that you feel like you have to.
Absolutely. I would say for me, I'm generally there's a dramatic in there or running through.
If you could see our desk now, we've got all red pencils, red rulers, red pens.
That is not on purpose, I don't think.
But it is, you know, it is about having something that, you know, gives you that sense of branding, you know, and if red's part of what that is, then, you know, people associate that. You know, I'm the same with flamingos. I get people who don't even know. I've seen a flamingo, Lisa, and I thought of you, and they send me pictures of stuff when they're on the holidays. And the flamingo thing came about because it's very much about the kitsch 1950s sort of mid-century design, which I'd always loved. And that's when I say I'd lost my sense of identity. I'd lost that. And one of the first things I did when my ex moved out was I bought some pink flamingo wallpaper for my bedroom. And my friend said to me, "Oh, flamingo," and I was like, "Oh, yeah." And then it's just I've ended up adopting it as part of my branding, and everybody knows me as now like Lisa the Flamingo Woman.
And that's a beautiful thing. I work with a lady in our business, and she's memory marketing, and her brand has elephants, and everyone we just associate elephants with Helen. Like, it's just one of those things. Red for me is hearts and stars and passion and love, and so heart and soul. It's interesting how we that comes through the years and you start to feel comfortable with it. What would you go back and tell your younger self, Lisa, given all what you've experienced? What would you tell young Lisa now?
What I would tell young Lisa now is that there are always going to be people who don't like you. For whatever reason, there are people who don't like you, and you're never going to be able to convince them to like you if they've made their mind up that they don't like you. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your time on conforming, or waste your time trying to squish a square peg in a round hole, or be something that you're not to try and make people like you. Just be yourself, be who you are, and your tribe will find you.
What a great piece of advice. Absolutely great piece of advice. I feel like we've covered quite a lot of your journey, but almost like there's more to even chat about. And I can't wait for us to continue our social media connection and maybe meet one day soon. That would be wonderful.
Nice, yeah.
It would be really lovely. And you'll see me in a completely different state, Lisa. I have to say.
You'll be very red with you. Your red jacket, your red handbag. What about red lipstick?
Red lipstick on there, and my makeup on. It's interesting because we worked with Sarah Harron. She came on our podcast. She does these most amazing handbags. Like, I don't know if you've seen them, where they mix and match stuff, and it's just beautiful. And we both got to choose one from her website, and I immediately got Liv was like, typical, you've just got the red one. And she got a navy blue one with all the, you can even choose the hardware colour, whether it's silver or gold. It's just really special. But yeah, I'll definitely have my red handbag with me when we meet, for sure. If people would love to work with you, or they've loved what they've heard, or they just want an initial conversation, or they want to do this free quiz or on your website or buy your book, how do they get in touch with you, Lisa?
My website's lisanewport.com. Very simple. I'm on, like you say, you found me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. If you look, Lisa Newport _FAB is where I am. So the FAB stands for the is for the business network, so the business club. So it's Lisa Newport FAB everywhere. I'm everywhere. So
that's
my book's available on Amazon. It's called Project Fab. So, and you create your own. What FAB stands for is up to you. So whether it's feisty, awesome, brilliant, or whatever your FAB is. So there's lots of exercises to do through my book that help you work out who you are and how you want to be perceived around colour and clothes. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. And I hope people look you up, buy the book, and follow you on socials. So we always finish the podcast, Lisa, with a school run memory. It can be your own, or one with your son, or it can be a couple. What would you like to share with our listeners?
I don't know whether I should tell you about my school run.
Come on.
The top of the 582 bus, smoking 10 number 6. That's what we used to do going to school. We'd get up and spend our dinner money on cigarettes. So yeah, it was everybody smoked in those days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to give up. I think even the kids today that are vaping, at some point, they won't want to be doing that, and it'll be hard to give it up. But it was that sneaky, because you weren't allowed to do it, were you?
No, oh God, no, absolutely not. And we used to put cotton wool in the matches so they didn't rattle and put them down our sock. Mum and Dad couldn't hear your matches rattling.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people giggling. A lot of people giggling at your school memory. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa.
The other one, which probably I should have said, was the school that I went to was literally at the end of the garden. So I didn't really have much of a school run at junior school or anything. It was at the end of our garden. So that's why I've got this memory of going on the bus with
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing. And I hope that our listeners have really enjoyed this episode. I really have. I think it's given us a lot of food for thought, and reach out and connect with Lisa.
Brilliant. Lovely. Keep in touch.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the School Run podcast. We absolutely love doing the podcast. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you'd like to buy us a virtual coffee, we'd be really, really grateful. You just need to go to www.buymeacoffee.com/the school run. That's buymeacoffee.com/the school run. You can also follow us on Instagram at the school run _official, or TikTok with the same name at the school run _official. And we always really appreciate your reviews and feedback. On the platform that you're listening to, you can review our podcast and give us a star rating. We'd love to have your comments and receive your feedback. Thank you so much for being a massive support of our journey.